Hello everybody, welcome to Red Tool House. On today's video I want to show you what happens when you go an extra 2 weeks on processing your Cornish cross broilers. These things are getting out of control. They're massive. So let's jump in here. So I believe this is our third batch of broiler. I can't keep track anymore. And we usually raise about 100 broilers a batch because that fits our chicken tractors. Since we have 3, and you can usually put about 30 some in each. And we usually like to process at 8 weeks. But because October has just been absolutely nuts and just not enough days in the month, we are 2 weeks beyond our intended processing date. Well, we will be. Almost 2 weeks. So when we get to, what is today? Today's Thursday. We're going to process on Saturday. No, today's Wednesday. Goodness. Today's Wednesday. We're going to process on Saturday. And if we went 2 more days, these birds will be a full 10 weeks old, which is just absolutely redonkulous. Look at the size. Look at the size of this basketball. This is a hen. This is not a rooster. We got a straight run this time because that's all we could get, and they're just absolutely massive. So what are the issues with that? Why am I bemoaning this? Well, I'm not saying it's cruelty to the animals, but it is tough on them. So I'm going to get in close, and if you guys are a little squeamish, then maybe hold off on this, but I want to show you. This is kind of real life what's going on with these birds get this big. So overall, the birds look fine. They look healthy. What I'm seeing, however, is, see like right here, well, this is a good example. These birds get so big and they get so aggressive for feed that, that's why I try to take some and throw it out here on the ground to get them spread out a little bit at this size. So here, look at this guy. Here's an example. So this guy's got a busted wing. You can see that discoloration, and that's busted in the sense that there's a bone sticking out of that wing. But what happens is they get so big that as they're wrestling around, they walk. They can barely walk as they're wrestling around doing that type of stuff. Their wings aren't nearly as strong as their legs and the rest of their bodies, so the wings are getting damaged. I noticed another one's got a busted wing. It's not a compound fracture like that one is. So we're going to have to check and make sure we don't have fly strike. Easy, buddy. I don't want to miss you. Yeah. It's a no fly strike, fortunately, since we've had good frosts. But obviously we're not reselling any of these birds. These birds are all for our own personal consumption. We're actually splitting them with a good friend of ours. So we are going to, this specific chicken, when we process him, this whole wing, of course, will be thrown away. We won't use that. This is actually a little rooster. But he's big. He's live weight. He feels like he's about 12 pounds. So when they get this big, obviously mobility becomes an issue. Health and welfare, those of you guys that have raised Cornish cross long enough, you know that they can just fall over dead. We haven't had a lot of that. We've had, actually had one we've lost. But because they're so big, these 2 tractors, they've outgrown them. And I've noticed that that's where some of the wing damage was coming from, was because being in the small tractor, the size they are and the weight that they are, it was causing issues. So I stopped moving the tractor. That's another benefit of having this stark line fencing here, is we stopped moving. I stopped moving the tractors and just opened the doors. And that's why I'm feeding and watering them outside, so they can have a little more room to roam, a little more ground to feed on, and not be so confined to one another. Yeah, Check on this gal. She's kind of hanging out here by herself. Make sure she's okay. Can you even walk, lady? Yeah, you're kind of like Otis the town drunk there, aren't you? Get you some feed here. So really just kind of begging them to hold on. Hold on for 3 days and we'll put you out of your misery. But it just absolutely amazes me the difference. I mean, like I said, we're not even talking 14 days yet. We're talking, by the time we'll be done, 11 days. But just the size of these birds. Now, of course, the input is part of that. We've been doing a 22% protein, which allows them to convert a lot of that. I mean, this is the smallest bird in the whole bunch, I think, is this guy right here, this little girl right here. She's considered a runt compared to everybody else, but my goodness, probably still a good 5-pound bird. So I cut back the feed ration considerably. You saw there, I was just not even filling up their feeders. I usually go 4 weeks in the brooder, depending on the time of year, what the weather's like. And since we were so hot and dry this year, I stayed in the brooder a little longer, so more shade, more control. So 4 weeks in the brooder, unlimited feed, unlimited access to feed. And then when we came out on pasture, we went a week with unlimited feed and just seeing how big they were getting. So started cutting that ration back, going to just a specific ration, just an amount in a bucket. So each filled a bucket completely full. Each tractor got half a bucket's load to try to slow down the growth, so we wouldn't have as much heart issues and mobility issues. But even that, scaling that back, we still produced some massive, massive birds. But we want to bring you guys along on this process here in the next couple days. Our friends are coming down, my folks are coming down, and we'll be processing these guys. But I just want to kind of take the evidence all the way through. So when I pick up a bird and say this is a big bird, we're going to finish them out, get them weighed, and share all that stuff with you so you guys can see. And then we'll even do a feed conversion assessment. So we'll look at the cost of the feed, the number of chickens we have. I believe with the ones we have remaining alive, I think we should be around 53, 54, somewhere around in there. But I'll bring you guys along. So here's another one with, this is the one I was seeing. This is the other one with the busted wing. Actually not. Just so big. So I discovered at this size, they're even having trouble crossing the threshold of the chicken tractors. So you can see that's about 7 inches in height. And they were having a hard time jumping in and jumping out. That's why I put waters inside and waters outside. Putting the waters inside and outside allowed them to obviously have access to water. That is a huge chicken. Kind of runs like I do. Well, it's just something simple as 7 inches, being able to jump over that. Now, for some of you may say, well, Troy, this is why we don't raise Cornish cross anymore and we've switched to Freedom Rangers or a dual purpose breed, something like that, because of the humaneness or the unease you may feel by seeing a bird get this big in less than 10 weeks and just wonder, is that good? Now, we know these are not genetically modified. They're not anything like that. These are just hybrid crosses that, as these poultry companies hone their genetics for these cross birds, they're just producing bigger and bigger birds. So that's the whole thing is, what's your ROI on here? That's why the feed conversion, I want to show you guys with that, share that with you guys so you can see how this pans out. Now, if we're doing a Freedom Ranger or something like that, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 14 weeks, 16 weeks, and probably still not get this big, not have this much yield. So you got to look at that. If you're doing chickens for personal consumption and you just don't feel like, okay, these Cornish cross, there's just something about them I don't like, I just think it's unfair, inhumane, whatever words you want to use, then you can go with something like that. Personal consumption, extra couple weeks, may not be that big a deal. Profitability isn't as important as maybe just even breaking even or just simply knowing, hey, raised an animal ethically, put food on the table, whatever the expense is, it's worth it. But where we normally do this for resale, then we definitely have to look at that return on investment. We have to look at that profit margin, because I'm not going to spend 8 weeks working my butt off and then a long weekend of processing to break even or to lose money. That would be stupid. So that's why we still do Cornish cross. We've done Freedom Rangers before, and I do like how they finish. I like the flavor, but it just takes a lot longer. But when I catch you guys next, we're going to be scooping these guys up on processing morning. We'll try to scoop them up on processing eve so I can get them in a trailer so I can get some empty crops here and be a little easier to eviscerate without a full crop. But we'll share some of the processing details as we go along, and of course definitely share some of our finish weights, because I think we're going to have some pretty spectacular finish weights on these birds. Okay, so we've got the chickens loaded up. You guys saw there in the time lapse, loaded the chickens. Chickens are so big, not a problem to be able to grab them out in the open field. 54 total birds that we have, which is not bad. We bought 60. I think we started with 64, so we've had about 10 loss, which percentage-wise that's a little high, but is what it is. So we've got, Mom and Dad brought the trailer down. We've got it in place, trying a little different setup this time so we can get some of our drainage to go over the hill instead of hanging out in the driveway. Just waiting for the scalder to come up to temperature, dangerous close there. And then Matt and Heather are here. They're going to help because actually we're splitting these chickens. Half of them are theirs, half of them are ours. So we're going to process them as such. We won't be doing any resale with these. So I'll just get some basic footage. I've done multiple videos of how we use this trailer to process our chickens. I can link to it here if you want to see the details of that. So probably just float around from time to time and just get some candid shots. But really what I want to do with you guys is just show you the weight of these birds by going that extra almost 2 weeks. Like I said, they'll be, I think I've mentioned this already, they'll be 10 weeks old on Monday. So today's Saturday, so what is that? That's 2 days off of 10 weeks. So 9.7 weeks old, and we've got some dinosaurs in here. I mean, there's some big birds in this group. And starting to have some issues. I noticed several of the toes are actually dislocated and pointed out just because they're so big. Obviously, that's quality of life decreases. That's why you just can't let these birds get too old. They really start having health issues. Oh. Expect me to bag, I guess. I'm not going to bag.
I might need to look in another cooler too. This one's smaller. Huh?
What's for dinner? Oh, pizza.
Pizza bowl. We like getting that from Hudson's.
Oh, Hudson's good at that.
That's what he got last time we were at your house.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You did.
Yeah.
Without sauce, I think it's better now.
You're not doing the sauce?
You hateful ugly man.
It's
I was doing it on purpose.
Yes, you are.
I'm just letting you go of it.
I know. Why are you doing that?
How else can I get the
How big?
let go of it?
What? I missed something.
6.2. She thinks I'm splashing her on purpose.
Oh, you get the laugh.
He's cracking up.
I'm splashing her, not on purpose, but it's still funny.
It is funny, I'm sure.
Okay, so all in all, it was a good day. Didn't get as much B-roll shot of the event just because when you're neck deep in chicken, you really don't want to go over and handle all your camera equipment. So you saw a little bit of footage there of us wrapping up, processing the whole birds, getting them bagged up, and then we moved on to parting out. So I wanted to go over some numbers with you and real quick, and then just kind of my final assessment on this run. So total number of birds was 54, and that's what we processed. The highest weight we had was 9.7 pounds dressed, and we had one little runt at 4.3. She didn't grow well at all. But our average, this is what amazes me, our average was 7 3/4 pounds over the course of those 54 birds. So 7 3/4. We ended up having 2 breast packages, so we're just putting 2 breasts in a package. We had packages that were coming in 2 to almost 3 pounds. So just 2 breasts weighing that much. That was fantastic. We like that when we parted out for personal use. Get some of those big portions there. When we go to resell that, which we're not reselling any of this, that sometimes rubs against because people don't want to pay that much money for 2 packs of breasts or for 2 breasts. But since we weren't reselling, it wasn't a big deal. We packaged up 25 and we parted out, whatever the math is on that, 29. So that's what we put away there. Now, one thing I found interesting was our feed per pound, and this is a little bit, I'm comparing it to last year, apples to apples. So when I take the total weight of the whole birds before we parted them out, we came up with 419.3 pounds of whole birds. So I take that total number weight, that 419 pounds, and I look at our total out-of-pocket expense. That included the purchase of the chickens, any shavings that we had, and the feed costs, of course. And that was a little over $600, $609 actually. So to do the math on that, we ended up with a per pound cost of $1.45, which I think is pretty great, especially when I go back and look at the exact same scenario from last year, where I took the whole bird's total weight, total feed costs, and last year that was $2.90 per pound. Now the big difference there, I'm certain, is last year we did non-GMO for all of our resale. This batch, which was personal consumption, Matt and Heather and Kelly and I, we just agreed, let's not mess with non-GMO. It's not that big a deal for us at this point. So many other things that are killing us, right? So the difference in that type of feed, of course, is where our cheaper cost savings came out. Another little note there, we had 9 birds that were over 9 pounds. And keep in mind, this is a straight run. This was not all cockerels. This was a straight run, so that's pretty big birds for the straight run. So what's my assessment on that? Even though the feed costs penciled out okay, I still think there at the end we're starting to taper off, not only with our feed conversion, but also with just the general welfare of the birds. As you saw in some of those initial scenes, I ended up having 2 that had the compound fracture, actually both in their left wings, interestingly enough. So those wings we had to completely discard. We could not save those, of course. We had some with some bruising along the keel bone. Again, just where they're heavy birds, they're kind of falling over one another, they're knocking each other around. It's just like a bunch of bowling balls hanging out, and they're just banging against one another. So there's a little more flesh damage to the chickens when they get that big. So this really just underscores the ideal time that we've always tried to embrace on the farm is 8-week window. From hatch to process, shoot for 8 weeks. When you get up into that 9, almost 10 weeks like we were, just a couple days from 10 weeks, then that just seems to add some extra complications there. Well, I hope you guys found this video useful. Again, this is how we're handling that and how we deal with birds that are a little bit older and the pros and cons of that. So comment below and let me know how long you usually let your broilers go and the specific breed that you use. Also want to make a quick note. Several weeks ago, I did a video where I kind of closed out in the end, talked about prayer requests. I'd asked you all to pray for Kelly and I when it came to some business decisions, financial decisions there. And then I encouraged you all to send me your requests, and you all did not disappoint. There was a lot of requests that came through. I've made a spreadsheet going through that and lifting those prayers up. So if you would like to be on our prayer list, by all means, just there's a link I'll put down below. It's just a simple little form on our website, secures everything, make sure privacy is key there. And you can submit your prayer request. I'll get it. I'm not going to do anything with your email other than just respond back to you to let you know, hey, we're praying for you. And it's pretty awesome to see this list grow and grow and grow, and the people that desire prayer and that I know are praying for us as well. So be sure to check that out if that's something you're interested in. Well, I appreciate everybody watching. I pray you have a great week. Take care.